protecting our kids as best as we can, and also understanding the role that they play in this really historical family.
Behind palace walls, tensions are reaching a dangerous breaking point. As King Charles faces mounting pressure, Prince Harry is said to have drawn a hard line, using the future of his children as leverage. What began as a private family rift has now spilled into a divorce battle, with royal consequences. Sources whisper of ultimatums, fractured trust, and a monarchy forced to choose. So, is this a father protecting his children, or a calculated threat shaking the crown at its core? The stakes have never been higher. The grandchildren. Charles may never know. Behind the walls of Buckingham Palace, King Charles III carries a quiet sorrow that few truly see. While the world watches his public duties and measured expressions, a deeply personal longing weighs on him every day. The ache of being separated from two of his grandchildren, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. Despite his strained and complicated relationship with Prince Harry, the king's desire is simple and deeply human. He wants to know his grandchildren before time slips away. Those close to the monarch say this pain runs far deeper than he allows the public to notice. According to an insider, the situation troubles King Charles more than he ever shows. Archie and Lilibet are not distant relatives or political figures to him. They are his own flesh and blood. They are a part of him. And as he grows older and faces serious health challenges, the reality that he barely knows them weighs heavily on his heart. More than titles or protocol, Charles wants moments, real memories, shared smiles, and a chance to be a grandfather in more than name alone. The contrast between this absence and his relationship with Prince William's children only deepens the sadness. King Charles shares a warm and affectionate bond with Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. He watches them grow, celebrates their milestones, and plays an active role in their lives. These relationships bring him great joy, but also a quiet sense of loss. Each happy moment with William's children is tinged with the painful reminder that he has no such connection with Harry's two young children. It is a joy shadowed by what is missing. For King Charles, this is not just about family disagreements or unresolved tensions. It is about time. As he continues his battle with cancer, the awareness that time may not be on his side has become impossible to ignore. Those close to him say he feels an increasing urgency, a sense that he cannot wait forever. Every passing year without Archie and Lilibet is a year he can never reclaim. The clock is ticking, and with it grows his fear that the chance to form a meaningful bond may slip away forever. Since Prince Harry and Meghan Markle stepped back from royal duties in 2020, the distance has only grown wider. The couple has not returned to the United Kingdom with their children, largely due to concerns surrounding security. After Prince Harry's government-funded protection was reduced, he made it clear that he no longer felt it was safe to bring his family back. This decision has left Archie and Lilibet growing up far from their royal roots and far from their grandfather. Prince Harry has openly spoken about this issue, placing much of the responsibility at his father's door. In a BBC interview, he suggested that King Charles holds significant power to change the situation. According to Harry, his father could allow experts to handle the matter properly or step aside so a fair resolution can be reached. He believes that the entire conflict could be eased, not through confrontation, but through cooperation and trust in the right authorities. Yet beneath the public statements and legal disputes lies something far more fragile, a family fractured by misunderstanding, pride, and distance. For King Charles, the issue is no longer just political or procedural. It is deeply personal. He is not asking for control or authority. He is asking for time. Time to know Archie's laughter. Time to watch Lilibet grow. Time to be present in their lives while he still can. As the years pass and his health remains uncertain, one truth becomes painfully clear. Kings may wear crowns, but they feel loss, just like anyone else. And for King Charles, the greatest ache may not be the battles he faces, but the grandchildren he still hopes, one day, to hold close. But why would Harry threaten his father with his children? What exactly caused the rift between father and son? Let's delve into the details of why Harry keeps using his children to threaten Charles. Prince Harry's hidden battle with King Charles. A royal insider has claimed that Prince Harry is deliberately using his children, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet Diana, as a way to settle old scores with his father, King Charles. According to Tom Quinn, a well-known royal author and commentator, Harry's approach mirrors the painful childhood experiences he and his brother, Prince William, endured during the turbulent period when their parents' marriage was falling apart. Quinn suggests that the prince's actions are fueled by a desire to confront his father over perceived past injustices, with his children now becoming tools in that ongoing struggle. His wish to punish his father has grown obsessive, Quinn explains, and it is deeply ironic that he is now involving Archie and Lilibet in this family battle, much as Charles and Diana once involved William and Harry in their own conflicts. In interviews reflecting on his early years, Prince Harry has openly admitted that after his parents' separation, he didn't spend enough time with either of them. That absence, Quinn says, appears to have left a lasting mark. Now, he argues, Harry is seemingly using his own children as bargaining chips in a complex and often private feud with King Charles. This has reportedly caused deep frustration for the monarch, who has long encouraged his son to move past old grievances. Despite Harry's public criticisms and private tensions, the king has largely refrained from responding in kind. Quinn notes that while the royal family has maintained a mostly silent stance on the allegations and claims made by Harry and his wife, Meghan Markle, Charles has privately been far from calm. Sources close to the palace claim the king is so upset that he has begun refusing calls from his son. When Harry does try to reach out, he is reportedly told that his father is unavailable right now, a polite but pointed signal of the strain in their relationship. The situation, according to Quinn, has left Charles in a painful position. He reportedly wishes Harry would let go of past grievances, particularly for the sake of Archie and Lilibet. He believes that repairing their father-son relationship is crucial for the children's well-being, Quinn explains. But he fears that access to the children is being manipulated as a tool to pressure him, and in his eyes, that is completely unacceptable. The tension has reportedly escalated even further following King Charles's recent health concerns. While father and son did speak briefly after the king revealed a cancer diagnosis, insiders suggest that Harry still sees Charles as the only person who can ensure the safety and well-being of Meghan Markle within the royal fold. This has added another layer of complexity to an already strained relationship, leaving both men navigating a mix of familial duty, public scrutiny, and personal hurt. Royal observers say the situation reflects a deeper pattern in Harry's life, one shaped by early experiences of absence, loss, and family conflict. By involving his own children, some suggest he is repeating the cycle of the past, consciously or unconsciously, using them to negotiate, to communicate grievances, and perhaps even to feel a sense of control that eluded him as a child. Meanwhile, the palace remains largely silent, opting not to comment publicly on Harry and Meghan's statements since they stepped back from royal duties in 2020. But behind closed doors, sources say, King Charles is struggling with a mix of anger, disappointment, and concern for the next generation. It's a delicate balancing act, protecting the children, maintaining family dignity, and trying to mend a relationship that has been fractured by decades of tension, misunderstanding, and unresolved pain. As the saga continues to unfold, the world watches closely. fascinated by the delicate and often painful dynamics of the modern monarchy, where personal grievances, historical wounds, and the pressures of public life intersect in ways that are as human as they are headline-grabbing. How does Harry's marriage affect his children's relationship with King Charles? What is the fate of the marriage? Let's dive into the details of the marriage no one saw crumbling. Betrayal behind closed doors. Harry's recollection of the final days of his marriage painted a picture of quiet deterioration rather than a single dramatic explosion. There wasn't a sudden argument that changed everything. Instead, it was a slow, creeping sense of unease that gradually eroded the foundation of their relationship. He spoke of months filled with tension and uncertainty, nights punctuated by hushed phone calls at odd hours, gifts of luxury arriving without explanation, and a growing emotional distance he struggled to understand. Each moment felt like a small puzzle piece that didn't fit, leaving him anxious, confused, and desperate to make sense of it all. He admitted, almost painfully, that for a long time he clung to hope. He wanted to believe Meghan, to trust her words and intentions. That belief, fragile as it was, felt safer than facing the truth. Denial became a comforting shield, a way to preserve what remained of their shared life. But the illusion shattered suddenly, decisively, on January 23rd. Meghan left without warning. No discussion, no farewell, no acknowledgement of the life they had built together, or the children who depended on both of them. Just silence and packed suitcases. The emotional blow, Harry revealed, was not merely the absence itself. It was the casualness with which she dismissed everything they had shared. She seemed to have moved on mentally and emotionally long before physically leaving. According to Harry, she no longer believed in the British monarchy, the institution she had once seemed determined to reshape. She no longer wanted the role she had fought to redefine, the responsibilities and expectations they had once navigated together. And perhaps most painfully, she no longer saw Harry as her partner in the future they had imagined. The revelation of another man, a figure Harry described only as a powerful Middle Eastern royal, was devastating, but it was not the heart of the pain. What cut deepest was the sense of rejection, the sudden realization that the shared bond he had relied on had been quietly dismantled from within. He felt blindsided not by scandal or gossip, but by a fundamental disconnect between what he believed to be their reality and the life she was now choosing for herself. Yet even that betrayal, as searing as it was, paled in comparison to the anguish that came in the most unexpected form, through the voice of his own child. Harry described moments that left anyone listening stunned and unsettled. His young son, a child who should have been steeped in innocence, began repeating phrases that sounded rehearsed, almost mechanical, and cruelly detached. Comments about real princes, questions about castles, laughter that felt hollow and unfamiliar, words that were not simply childish curiosity, but echoes of adult notions the child was too young to understand fully. It was in those moments that Harry realized the stakes were far higher than a fractured marriage. The relationship between husband and wife had crumbled, yes, but now something even more fragile, more precious, was at risk. The innocence of a child, the natural trust and security a young mind should feel, seemed to teeter on the edge. Grief had turned into alarm, and Harry's worry was no longer about himself. It was about the emotional world of the child, who looked to him for stability and protection. In his account, the slow, almost imperceptible unraveling of his marriage was matched by the sudden, stark realization of its consequences. The intimate betrayals of adult relationships are painful enough, but when they echo through the life of a child, they become haunting. Harry's story revealed not just heartbreak, but the fragile line between family loyalty, parental responsibility, and the unexpected ways that loss can ripple through the lives of those we love most. Where, when, and how did Harry make his most recent confirmation of his marital crises and his threat to his father over his children's future? Let's dig into the details of Harry's emotional warfare, control, and isolation, from home to hostile ground. As the podcast began, Harry slowly unveiled a side of his life that the public rarely sees, one that felt like it had quietly descended into a house ruled by tension and emotional hostility. He painted a picture of a home where he no longer recognized his own role, a place where he felt more like a stage prop than a person. Cameras captured his presence. Life beyond the lens seemed to have little use for him. In his own home, in the very space he helped shape, Harry described himself as fading into the background, a man whose voice seemed irrelevant, whose presence could be ignored without notice. The deeper he went, the more chilling the revelations became. Harry spoke of Meghan in ways that startled even longtime listeners. He claimed she openly mocked his influence in America, portraying him as a broken royal, desperately clinging to significance. According to him, friends were warned. The world didn't want heartfelt honesty. It wanted drama, spectacle, and Harry had become the centerpiece of that show. In their conversations and interactions, he said, the comparisons were endless, always highlighting his shortcomings. Financially, personally, even emotionally, the scales were tipped against him, cutting deeper with each remark. But perhaps the most unsettling part of his account was the theme of control. Harry described moments where he felt stripped of autonomy, of even the simplest freedoms. His phone, he said, was taken from him for days under the justification of security. A measure meant to protect him, yet one that only intensified a sense of imprisonment. Decisions that affected both of their lives seemed to bypass him, leaving him frozen on the sidelines, watching the narrative of his own life unfold without him. He spoke of being shut out emotionally, of feeling like a guest in a life he had worked to build, as though the very foundation of his home had shifted under his feet. When the conversation turned to the question of safety, Harry didn't hesitate. It wasn't physical danger he emphasized. It was emotional. He said he had never truly felt safe, never truly free to express himself or to be seen for who he was, stripped of protection from the very relationship that should have been his refuge. The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of a man who had long been silenced in the place he should have been most secure. What emerges from Harry's account is not just a story of a marriage under strain, it is a portrait of gradual erosion. This was about more than arguments or misunderstandings. It was about agency, dignity, and voice being taken away, one small step at a time. He described the slow, almost imperceptible dismantling of his role in his own life, the way it felt to watch choices being made around him while his own influence was minimized, ignored, or ridiculed. By the time Meghan left, Harry revealed he had reached a point beyond hurt or abandonment. He did not feel betrayed in the usual sense. He felt erased, not forgotten, not left behind, but as if he had been wiped from the narrative of the life he had once envisioned. The man who had been front and center, who had once carried titles, responsibilities, and expectations, now saw himself as a shadow, a character written out of his own story. Every laugh, every smile, every camera flash that had once defined his public image felt hollow in comparison to the emptiness he described in private. Listeners were left with a haunting vision. A life that, on the outside, appeared glamorous and enviable, yet on the inside had become a stage where Harry's feelings, his worth, and his very presence were constantly questioned, undermined, and diminished. It was a story not just of love lost, but of identity quietly unraveling, a cautionary tale of how even those born into privilege can find themselves powerless in their own homes. And, in the telling, Harry made one thing painfully clear. This was a man not merely hurt, not merely disappointed, but erased. With the divorce settled, how will Harry go about life after divorce? Who will take custody of the children? Let's find out. Law, custody, and the price of truth. Once Meghan departed, the storm that had been quietly brewing erupted with astonishing speed. What began as private heartbreak and emotional upheaval quickly spiraled into a full-blown legal battlefield. Prince Harry, visibly shaken but resolute, confirmed that divorce proceedings had officially begun. Alongside the divorce, he launched an aggressive custody strategy, determined to safeguard Archie and Lilibet from what he described as unpreparedness and neglect. At the heart of his case was a claim that hit with both clarity and severity. Abandonment. Harry alleged that Meghan left without making essential arrangements for the children's care, schooling, or health care. He painted a stark picture of two young lives suddenly uprooted, their daily stability thrown into uncertainty. Most shocking of all, he claimed Meghan had explicitly stated that she did not want the children, a revelation that, if true, became the linchpin of his argument for sole custody. The statement, seemingly cruel and unthinkable to outsiders, was presented not as a provocation, but as a desperate measure to protect the welfare of his children. Financial matters, too, were thrown into chaos. Joint accounts had been frozen and family assets were under intensive scrutiny. Archewell, the couple's once celebrated joint initiative, now lay dormant under the weight of investigations and accusations of mismanaged funds. Harry's legal team argued that the betrayal was not just emotional but deeply financial. Marital trust had been fractured, obligations ignored, and resources diverted without consent. What had once been a symbol of shared purpose had become, in the courtroom's eyes, evidence of disunity and breach. Yet, it was, perhaps, Harry's most personal admission that stunned observers. He acknowledged he might be forced to pursue temporary guardianship placement for his children if denied the right to return to the United Kingdom. He was not making a dramatic threat. Rather, it was a candid expression of desperation. For Harry, the issue went far beyond legal maneuvering. Custody was no longer about control. It had become a matter of identity, stability, and survival. The man who had once been lauded for balancing duty and family now seemed cornered, navigating a labyrinth of heartbreak, obligation, and urgent parental instinct. Legal experts watching the drama unfold noted that moves of this nature are rare and laden with emotional weight. Seeking temporary guardianship, especially under such public and contentious circumstances, is a painful process, symbolic of both deep conflict and profound concern. It reflects a parent pushed to the edge, compelled to act to preserve the most vulnerable aspects of their family's life. Harry's situation, in essence, is the stark embodiment of that predicament. The unfolding legal saga, while intensely private, has captured global attention because it combines elements of wealth, power, and emotional vulnerability. On one hand, there are financial audits, frozen assets, and potential mismanagement claims. On the other, there is the profoundly human struggle of a father striving to secure the stability and well-being of his children. The intersection of these pressures has made the case unusually complex, yet heartbreakingly relatable. At its core, it is a story of family, loyalty, and the extreme lengths one parent will go to protect the children he loves. Observers have noted the transformation in Harry himself. From a prince who once moved gracefully through the public eye, he now appears marked by the strain of betrayal and responsibility. Every court filing, every statement, and every legal strategy seems to echo the same urgent message. This is about more than money or reputation. It is about keeping his children safe, maintaining continuity in their lives, and asserting his role in a family suddenly fractured by absence, disagreement, and uncertainty. As the proceedings continue, the world watches a drama that combines the deeply personal with the painfully public. The stakes are high, the emotions raw, and the implications profound. What began as a private departure has now escalated into a defining moment of parental determination, legal contention, and the complex realities of protecting a family when the foundations beneath it appear to have shifted overnight. What would be the fate of the poor children? Do they have plans for them? Let's take a look at their individual struggles on reinvention, power, and children left between. Two paths, two continents. While Harry prepares court filings and steps into the glare of the press, Meghan's story is unfolding along an entirely different path. Her departure from Montecito was never just about leaving a house or a city. It was a carefully measured move, a shift with intention. Every flight she took, every high-profile appearance, and every swift rebranding effort points to a strategy designed to distance herself from the relentless scrutiny of Western celebrity culture. Instead, she seems to be gravitating towards circles of influence where prestige is measured differently, toward royal connections in the Middle East, where power and protocol operate under a subtler, softer gaze. Today's editorials present a radically different Meghan than the one the public first encountered. She is no longer defined by headlines of controversy or courtroom battles. Instead, she is framed as a bridge between cultures, a symbol of feminine reinvention, a woman who embodies diplomacy as much as charisma. She has cultivated new foundations, taken on new projects, and even adopted new ways of communicating, new domains, new audiences, new language. Curiously absent from this carefully constructed narrative are Harry, their marriage, and their children. These personal threads, once central to public perception, are now overshadowed by a version of Meghan designed for legacy, not gossip. This split between them has become the defining tension of their saga. Harry's world is inward-facing, consumed by legal battles, confessions, and the heavy burden of accountability. He is entangled in a fight that demands explanation, transparency, and endurance. Meghan, in contrast, is moving outward, charting a course toward influence, recognition, and a new form of power that is far less combative and far more curated. Where Harry faces relentless scrutiny, Meghan steps into spaces where her actions are celebrated, her voice amplified, and her story framed as aspirational. One path is defensive, the other is expansive, and in the middle of it all stand two children, living between worlds that often feel irreconcilable. They navigate identities shaped by royal expectation, cultural divergence, and the complex rules of multiple legal systems. For Meghan, they seem to represent a chapter that is largely behind her, a private dimension that is quietly acknowledged but intentionally subdued. For Harry, they remain the heart of the struggle, the reason the battle continues, the stakes that make every filing, every interview, and every public statement more than just a personal conflict. They are a fight for family, for legacy, for what cannot be replaced. What began as a modern fairy tale romance, a story of love in the public eye, has morphed into something far more intricate, a global study of narrative power, personal reinvention, and the cost of visibility. Each move, each statement, each carefully staged appearance contributes to a broader lesson on how fame, influence, and personal ambition intersect in ways that are both dazzling and dangerous. As legal hearings loom and reputations teeter, one truth becomes undeniable. This is no longer a tale about royalty, titles, or palace intrigue. It is now a story about control. Control of narrative, control of legacy, and control of the very image of self in the global spotlight. And it is also a story about consequences. When love becomes collateral in a game of perception and power, someone always pays the price. The question that lingers over every headline, every flight, every foundation is this: who will define the future, and who will bear the cost of ambition when the personal becomes public? In the end, Harry and Meghan are no longer just a couple. They are forces moving in opposite directions, their choices echoing far beyond personal quarrels. One fights through confrontation, the other moves through reinvention. One seeks to protect what is already theirs. The other builds what could become their legacy. And in the middle of their divergent journeys, the world watches, fascinated, questioning, and at times judging as this modern saga continues to unfold. So, what do you think about Harry's threat against his father? What about his divorce? We'd love to hear your opinions in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe.